Hello, and welcome back to the Magic Mindfulness Podcast. I am your host, Rachel Hupp, and I'm really excited. I've got a special guest with me today. Her name is Celia Layman, and she is the facilitator for support groups for women in their perimenopausal transition. So, welcome, Celia. Glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let me read your bio and then we will dive right on in. Celia Layman is no stranger to life transitions and the change that comes with each one. At age 47, she sought naturopathic support for discontinuing the pill. Then she soon found herself in the throes of perimenopause. So, over the 4 year span of her hormone healing journey, she faced many complex health trials alongside the challenges of parenting two young adult children. Current ages are 23 and 25. So during this time, she and a former teaching colleague opened a small private preschool in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And so today, at the age of 53, she has completed her perimenopausal journey and her teaching career. As a brand new grandmother, she enjoys greater health now than she experienced at a much younger age. Influenced by her Master's of Arts in Education program at Eastern Mennonite University, which was completed in 2015, that integrated themes of diversity, teamwork, and collaboration, peace building, and creating cultures of change, Celia strives to facilitate honest discussions in a safe space. She is inspired to offer hope to others in this sacred life stage. And Celia is passionate about what she has learned and invites others to listen and to share, to grow and to heal and to support each other. So, wow, quite a journey you've been on, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Why don't you share some of your story with us for our listeners?
Okay. Well, when I first started out, like it was mentioned in the bio, I was just intending to get a little bit of support for going off the birth control pill. And I really didn't realize that I would be this close to the beginning stages of perimenopause. And so that began a journey because I needed support for both. And my hormone health became really complicated as perimenopause and going off the pill were intertwined. So, through that process, I learned so much about nutrition, about self care, about just having space for my own emotions and spiritual growth in ways that I would have never experienced if I had just stayed on the pill through age 53, age 54. So, it was a difficult journey, but I would not have changed it. It was transformative in every area of life.
And I know you said that it came a little sooner, a bit sooner than you had expected. That can
Yeah.
happen at a wide range, right? But
Yes. Yes, I am finding that it is coming sooner for some women than I might have expected or that they themselves might have expected. And actually, in one of the support groups that I'm a part of leading right now, there are women ranging from 37 to 48, and they're finding that they really do need that support. They need the answers, and they're just really benefiting from coming into a circle with women who maybe are a little bit farther down the journey to say, yeah, actually, that does sound like you might be on the verge of perimenopause.
yeah, so that's a perfect segue, actually. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the types of support groups that you lead?
Okay, great. So I have started a group called Embrace the Change, and there are two running right now in the fall of 2024. And one of them meets on Tuesdays at Scion Wood. One of them meets on Thursdays, and that one's at Heart and Soul Fitness. And each of them is an opportunity for women to come to a safe place, to share, to ask their questions, to lean on each other, to learn about topics such as sleep hygiene, gut health, vaginal health, weight loss, any of the topics that really concern women in this phase of life. And it's kind of a blend of education and emotional support in each group. And so I hope to continue having the groups run on into 2025 and taking it from there to see how it grows. And I've also started adding a new offering, which are one-on-one sessions that I've called Power Talks. And I'm just starting to put that opportunity out there and market that to provide opportunities for women that maybe couldn't fit a full series into their schedule, or they finished a series and they want to go deeper into one of the topics, or they just need a sounding board, a boost of encouragement that can be provided in a one-on-one type setting. So those are 60-minute sessions.
That's what a wonderful opportunity. That's so great. So you have options if people want the more connected support group environment, or like you said, for people who may either prefer one-on-one support or they can't commit to that group session. What
Yes.
a wonderful way to support people on this journey. And I don't know, some people, it seems like a lot of us, at least when I think about my own perspective, thinking about perimenopause, it can be kind of scary, right? Because you don't really know what's ahead of you. You don't know, it can be so many different changes and fluctuations. And maybe talk a little bit about the fears that come up and if that feels okay for you.
Yes, yes. I think it is for a lot of women something that they do dread, something that they fear because it's not talked about a lot. It's not talked
Mhm.
about in medical offices. It's not talked about between women. It's often not even talked about in families between women. So they don't know what to expect. And when the changes start, it might be sleep struggles, it might be unexplained weight gain, it might be hot flashes or night sweats, at really embarrassing times. It might be that stress is harder to buffer than it used to be. It might be pain with sex that didn't used to be there. So those things can be scary and confusing. And a lot of times women aren't prepared to face that. So my hope is that with this group, they can learn that they're not alone. They can learn that they're not dying, that this is a normal transition. And we are created to go through this transition, but we're not created to go through it alone. So the hope is that women realize that some of these struggles that can become health issues if they're not attended to can lead them into greater self-care, into more careful nutrition in ways that help them survive perimenopause, but then not to leave those things behind, but to carry those into the rest of their life, into their postmenopausal stage, so that they experience even better health than they did before they went into the perimenopause stage.
Yeah, I like how you said in your bio that you feel healthier now than you did when you were younger. And we were kind of chatting a little bit before and just talking about how this stage and season of your life can actually give you permission to take care of your health in ways that you may not have done before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, when I first got into perimenopause, I really had never faced any health issues. I was very blessed in that regard. So, in order to navigate it, I really did have to spend a lot more time focused on my health and my self-care in ways that my family wasn't used to, that I wasn't used to. But it did help me to start habits that I wanted to continue for the rest of my life.
And it's amazing how, the body and the mind are so interconnected. You're talking about beyond just, beyond hormones. Everything affects your hormones, your stress, your food, your diet, your self-care. And it's
Mm.
just so powerful because we do have a lot of power over our health if we take the time to care for ourselves.
Yes, yes, if we claim that power. Mhm,
Yes, yes,
mhm,
exactly. I like that.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, the whole idea of health sovereignty, that we can be in control of our health. And that's a concept that the naturopathic doctor, Dr. Alexandra Cope, who guided me through my journey, she first introduced me to that concept of health sovereignty.
Yeah, I really like that. Awesome. So, how would you say, this is a stage and a season of our life that we're all going to go through, we're all going to experience as women. Um, Knowing it isn't quite the same as accepting it. Do you
Right.
have any tips to help us kind of accept and honor the journey?
Yes, yes. I remember in the beginning, I felt like, okay, I am too young to be this old because I associated the transition with aging and losing youthfulness. But and that's not to say that I didn't go through a time of grieving and a time of reckoning. I call it the days of reckoning when I came to terms with it. And after I moved through that initial grieving time, some of the things that helped me to find acceptance in it were that I realized that going through perimenopause is actually a gift in that it helps us have the opportunity to say goodbye to our fertile selves and to be able to do that gradually. And not everyone has that opportunity. I mean, some women are brought into perimenopause and menopause medically, like if they need to have some sort of surgery and have ovaries removed or something like that. But I was fortunate enough to be able to go into it gradually, although it was tumultuous at times, but to come out of it with an acceptance of saying goodbye to my fertile self. And if I hadn't gone through that, if I had just stayed on the pill, I would have really missed, I would have just bypassed those really valuable gifts and just felt very shortchanged. And not only have I reached that acceptance, but through learning more about my body, because having been on the pill for so long, I didn't have to learn about my menstrual cycle and be in touch with my body in that way because it was just regulated for me like clockwork, even though it was a fake period with fake hormones. So as I learned about the menstrual cycle, I was able to then pass that on to my daughter, who was an older teenager at the time. And it was the perfect time for her to begin learning about her cycle and becoming familiar and being able to track her own ovulation and just be in touch with her body in ways that I had no idea of when I was her age. So that's been another gift that has helped it to be something that I'm thankful for the whole transition.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that stage of grief first, because I feel like it's not just you just decide you're going to accept it and it's just like that. You decide you're going to accept it. It is a journey and it
Right.
is a process.
Yes. Yes.
And I
Yes.
feel like we move from that sense of like confusion into a state of clarity on that journey from grief to acceptance.
Yes. Yes. It's definitely a journey and it takes time and it's so much easier to do it in a circle of others. And some of the ladies in the group now had asked that same question, like, how do we deal with the grief part of it? And so
Yeah.
for them to be able to voice that and then hear encouragement from other women has just been really big in their overall journey.
And I'm glad you mentioned too about, so many women these days, they are on birth control. And so we are detached and disconnected from that part of ourselves. Like you said, you don't even have to think about it. And so
Right.
that level of self-awareness that you were then able to share generationally, that's
Yes.
powerful.
Yes, yeah, the self-awareness has been wonderful. It's something that I've really enjoyed. It's my intuition has been heightened and just clearer thinking on the other side of menopause. As you know, I guess it's why they call it the wise woman status, because we really are more in touch with ourselves.
That's powerful. I really like that thought. That's a wonderful concept.
Hmm.
Yeah, linking the two together. That's awesome.
Yes.
So we've talked a little bit about, this mind-body connection. How has mindfulness specifically helped you through this journey?
Mm. Well, I first began to understand mindfulness over 5 years ago when my naturopathic doctor, Dr. Cope, first started offering to do somatic experiencing therapy with me, which focuses on the mind body connection in ways to address mental health and physical health. And through the sessions, you complete the processing of emotions, you notice the mind body connection, and you cultivate more awareness until you have a greater capacity for managing stress. So within each session, you're really in tune with the mind body connection. And then you're learning tools to help you outside of the session, whether that's being more mindful when you're eating, which is really important if you're having GI
Yeah.
struggles, or just noticing sounds and sights in nature that you didn't used to notice, like a praying mantis, camouflage in the green grass that's growing up around my mailbox, or just moments like that I'm so much more present and in my body. And I'm much more aware of when I'm in my body and when I'm not in my body, and cognizant of tools that I can use, whether it's, being triggered in a crowded space or in a conversation with somebody that I might have difficulty with. There are tools and resources that I can call in to help bring me back into my body. And I did not know any of that, hadn't experienced that at all until starting out on this journey.
And it's amazing how much of our lives we kind of miss because we're not fully present. We're worrying
Mhm.
about the past or worrying about the
Mhm.
future. And like you said, mindfulness is such a gift, and it's one that keeps giving, because the more you practice, the more mindful you become, and the more
Yeah.
aware you are, and the more able you are to be present in your life, in your body, with your mind. And it's just so amazing.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a real treasure.
It is. That sounds amazing. And it's really neat that you went on this naturopathic journey. I mean, I'm sure that it had its ebbs and its flows and its ups and its downs, but you're on the other side. You made it through. And what would you say to somebody who is just at the beginning stages of their journey to help kind of, mm, I don't know, make them feel a little more comfortable or
Mm.
inspired or,
Mhm.
mm,
I would, number one, encourage them to find a supportive circle, whether it's Embrace the Change or whether it's in their own circle of friends, their book club, in their neighborhood, to be able to start talking about it and then to start learning what resources are available locally for help, whether it's life coach or whether it's a doctor or an herbalist or any practitioner that might be able to help them. I would let them know that their symptoms are not in their head. They're very, very
yeah.
real. And that if they are seeking more information, then they really should find an integrative doctor who can guide them through hormone testing, whether that's blood test or the Dutch test, which is a dried urine test, which gives a more complete analysis of the hormones through different phases. Um, those types of testing can really help a provider know how to help you before the symptoms start to get really bad and take over, and help you to realize that it really isn't all in your head. Because when you start to see the levels of your hormones that are going down or in relative balance to each other, especially if estrogen is high relative to progesterone, then that helps to make sense of it. And you just realize that you weren't crazy, you weren't losing your mind, you didn't have a split personality. There are real documented reasons for the symptoms, and to not suffer. That there are ways to get help, whether it's through nutrition, herbs, or natural hormone replacement therapy. Finding a doctor who is well versed in those types of therapies can just be huge. Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned that about the different ways that people can seek support, because I don't think everybody knows, that there are so many options out there for finding support, whether it is like a support group like what you offer, or one-on-one session with you, or a coach, or different types of doctors, practitioners, herbalists. There's so many people out there that can help depending on a person's unique interests. And
Yes. Yes, and that's what I'd hope to do in the one-on-one session, is to help each person find the path that's right for them. Yeah.
yeah, that's so fascinating. And, we talked about this a little bit before, but so one of the certifications that I maintain is my holistic health coach. And I was doing some continuing education just recently, and we talked about, it was a perimenopause. It was basically talking about the lifespan of a woman and how our hormones fluctuate over the span of our life. And when I saw the roller coaster ride that's coming up in front of me, I was like, buckle up. Buckle up. And so I'm glad that people like you are out there to support women going through these changes, because, like you said, it's not all in your head.
Yeah, it's not all our head. And there's a myth that estrogen just continues to decline and drop and drop and drop. And that's really not true. The research shows that estrogen does continue to fluctuate. And so that can make the symptoms even more unpredictable, because if estrogen does have a little surge at a time when progesterone is low, that is usually what's happening behind some of the more troubling symptoms, especially sleep struggles, anxiety, mood struggles. It's that culprit behind the scenes of estrogen and progesterone being out of balance with each other. So it's not just like estrogen going downhill, 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 which is something that needs to be changed. A lot of people have that idea, and that's just simply not true.
Yeah, I'm glad you set that straight. Yeah, it's easy, so easy to misunderstand. And like, I don't know, hormones, it's just such a complex um, I feel like you can study for a long time and never get bored because it's just
Yeah.
so complicated.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited that you've been able to join me today. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about how they may be able to work with you coming up in 2025?
Okay, so in 2025, I'm going to launch a 8-week group program. I've been so amazed in this current session how many questions come up that I don't know the answers to, that women are asking, they're seeking, and then the 8 in-person sessions would be times for a short period of education and then sharing each week in person. I could give just a little quick summary of the themes of the series,
Yeah.
and that is that we focus on the fact that our body has an amazing ability to heal itself and is very resilient. We focus on how herbal medicine can work in synergy with nutrition. When we focus on how small changes in nutrition can actually result in big physiological changes. And we focus on how when we take care of the whole me, that we're more available to take care of other people and be more present for them. And then the biggest thing we focus on is that complete healing involves healing on all levels, spiritual, mental, and physical. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I hope people walk away from the group with.
Yeah. I saw something the other day that said healing is a return to wholeness.
Hmm.
And I just thought that that was a really simple but powerful definition. Or,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Awesome. Awesome. And the in person sessions, are those in Harrisonburg, Virginia?
Yes, those will be in Harrisonburg.
Awesome. Awesome. And I just want to say that I really appreciate how you said people are asking you questions that you don't know the answers to, because I think it's so important for us to acknowledge that as coaches and guides and facilitators, we don't know everything. Just
Yeah.
because you're an expert
Yeah.
in your field doesn't mean you know everything. And
Right.
so I'm really grateful that you acknowledge that, because you have a wealth of knowledge. You know so much, but that doesn't mean that that's the end all be all. We're always learning and growing.
Yes. And I tell the women when we first start the series that I definitely don't know all the answers, that I can't make medical recommendations for them, and I can't tell them how long they'll be in perimenopause. I don't know if anybody can do that, but I can offer a safe and nurturing space for them to learn and to grow.
And I think, at least in my own experience, from these, now I've done both group coaching and one-on-one coaching, as both a guide and as a participant,
Mhm.
not around perimenopause, but just in general, as far as personal growth and development.
Right.
And there's so many benefits to each option depending on what an individual is looking for. Like the one-on-one, I feel like you can go so much deeper. For people who may be shy or may not feel comfortable sharing in a group setting, you've got that safe space for one-on-one support. And in the group setting, though, it's just so powerful because everybody learns from each other.
They do. Yeah.
And
That's
some of the most,
mhm.
yeah. And some of the most powerful friendships and like collaborations that I've made through co-participating in these group sessions that were facilitated or led by somebody else. And you make these connections that can really last a lifetime. So it's
Yeah.
powerful beyond the 8 weeks.
It is. And with the group that met last spring for 8 weeks, they've really kept in touch, and we've gotten together for a walk. We've gotten together for a hike. Not everybody can make it every time, but the friendships have been sustained, and I enjoy them as much as they do. And they just welcome me into the group as one of them. I'm on the journey just like they are. And we had a hike up in the mountains just a couple of weeks ago and just enjoyed it and reminisced about the group, talked about where we are now, gave each other updates. So yes, that's another benefit, is the friendships that last.
Yes, yes. And I think that so often, when you're considering whether to join something like that, that's not really something that's on your mind. So I just wanted to make sure to bring that up because
Yes,
it's one of the extra, it's like a added bonus.
it is. And some women come with a friend, but in many cases, they come not knowing anybody. And
I'm glad you said that.
I tell them that I'm so proud of them for showing up for themselves. I mean, whether they come with a best friend or not, I'm just proud of them for showing up for themselves.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
And so you want to let our listeners know where they can find you.
So they can find me on Instagram at Embrace the Change VA. It's embrace_the_change VA. And I don't currently have a website, but I can be emailed. I have a special email account just for Embrace the Change. So we could put that email in the show notes as well.
Absolutely. I'll link to your
Yes.
Instagram and to
Yes.
your email so listeners can get in
Yes.
touch with you and keep up to date on your new offerings and even, schedule a one-on-one with you if they don't want to wait for your next group session.
Yes, yes. I'm offering those in the month of December and hopefully continuing those on into the new year as well.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yes.
Well, I feel like we've covered quite a bit, and it's so empowering to recognize that this stage and season that we're all going to face as women, it doesn't have to be scary. We can get support. We can make it through it. We're stronger together. But if you had one final, I don't know, thought or whatever's on your heart to share with our listeners today, what would you like to leave them with?
Okay. I would tell everyone listening that to embrace this time as an opportunity to get to know yourself better in ways that will really help prepare you for the next stage of life. And that this stage is necessary. We're going to go through it. It's divinely designed, but we can see it as a time of profound spiritual awakening, that it doesn't have to be a time to give into fear or depression. Not that it's going to always be easy. It will be hard. It will be scary. It will rock the boat. It will stir up new emotions, but it can just be a time of soul searching and refining values, leading to more pure relationships and just a deeper knowledge of ourselves in a way that you might emerge out of your journey with a brand new calling.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for
Yes.
sharing that and for your inspiration and your insight. Well, thank you, Celia Layman, for being
Thank
here with
you
me
for having me,
today.
Rachel. It's great.
Our listeners can find you at Embrace the Change VA, and I will share that in the show notes. Right. Thanks everyone for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.